Greetings, everyone. I'm Fred Holohan, and along with my colleague Bill Boswell from Siemens PLM Software, I would like to welcome you to this webinar entitled Driving Digital Value with Edge2Web Director for MindSphere. Before we get started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. The webinar is being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later and pass the link to your colleagues if they have an interest. If you have questions, please type them into the webinar chat box and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. All webinar content, including all questions that are asked and all answers that we give, will be made available within a few days of the webinar. Today's new and emerging IoT platforms offer industrial organizations compelling opportunities to digitalize, transforming business processes, products, and customer experiences. Siemens MindSphere is a cloud-based open IoT operating system that connects your products, your plants, systems, and machines, enabling you to harness the wealth of data and analytics generated by your physical assets. Edge2Web Director is a cloud-based visual development platform that enables you to quickly build, deploy, and operate an extensive range of industrial applications based on MindSphere data and analytics. Director supports the complete portfolio of MindSphere service APIs and provides up-the-stack components that make it fast and easy to create game-changing MindSphere applications. So this webinar is all about how you can use these two powerful platforms to quickly onboard your assets, build sophisticated, polished, professional applications that deliver transformative value to the business. So we're going to start out first by hearing from Bill, who will bring us through an overview of MindSphere, and then I'll jump back in and introduce you to Edge2Web Director, its integration with MindSphere, and some of the other product aspects. So without further delay, I'll turn the mic over to Bill.
Thanks, Fred. I appreciate being here on the webinar with you today. What I want to talk to you about today is unlocking the power of IoT in your business with MindSphere. Siemens knows about IoT and connected devices. As the #1 automation provider in the world, we deliver mission-critical and operation automation technology with over 35 million automation systems in the field, 75 million contracted smart meters in the energy area, and over 1.3 million connected products of our own in the field today. And MindSphere is the IoT backbone for all of our IoT solutions with Siemens across our businesses that you see around the outside of this, as well as all of our divisions. And so we are fairly unique in the industry in that we don't just build IoT solutions, we use them ourselves and have a deep understanding of Industry 4.0. So knowing where to get started with IoT in your business can be somewhat overwhelming. We see customers generally following or landing somewhere on what we sort of refer to as a digital maturity curve. If you look at the diagram on this slide, you'll see that you have value creation on the axis on the left and solution scope across the bottom. And these are not meant to be an exhaustive list, but you can just get an idea of some of the typical use cases that we see customers from things ranging from asset management to condition monitoring, getting then into more advanced performance management, then stepping up into things like predictive maintenance and optimizing processes around that, monitoring asset energy usage, and realize use cases to save and optimize cost and energy usage, and then you get into kind of some of the more advanced concepts that we'll talk about with digital twins in a few moments. And so what we've done is we've mapped our solution packages around those areas, and most people tend to get started in kind of what we call connect and monitor, where you're connecting existing assets and systems in MindSphere. You're collecting data, using it to improve your processes and enhance your customer experience and reduce downtime. And of course, there's a lot more you can do with that. But then the next general step function and where our solutions map to is getting into analyzing and predicting performance. And that's where you're really getting into building analytics models and finding new insights using the integrated data sets and data analytics tools, which we'll talk more about throughout this presentation. And this is really where you begin to really focus on automating processes and getting more into prescriptive processes. And then, of course, we move up into what we call digitalize and transform, where you're really building and using targeted transformative applications. You can use this to help change the way that you develop new products, the way that you do manufacturing and services, and even use this to develop new business models that can be used delivering technology as a service or whatever your area of expertise is for your company that you want to deliver as a service to your end customers. So when we talk about digitalization and the power of that, we're really talking about digital twins. And of course, you hear about digital twins quite often in the marketplace today, but Siemens has what we think is the most complete or holistic view of the digital twin process. And the way we think of a digital twin is that it really has essentially three aspects. One is the digital twin of the product, where you're designing the product, you're simulating how the product is going to perform. Then you get into the digital twin of production, where you're able to combine the real and the virtual world and be able to do everything from design your assembly lines to simulate throughput to troubleshooting problems on that, doing things like virtual commissioning of assembly lines and equipment. And then once that production lines are created, you really can get into the digital twin of the performance. So what's interesting about this is you're not only getting into the digital twin of the production. That, of course, is a really important area, but you can also get into the digital twin and how the product that you've built is performing in the field, and use MindSphere to tie insights from that performance back to not only how your real production is operating, but back into how your product was designed in the first place and how it was simulated to operate. So you can use real-time performance data and IoT data to tie back into every phase, every digital twin in the process.
Bill seems to be having some audio problems from China, so I will attempt to finish his slides and let's just continue. So MindSphere is the cloud-based IoT operating system from Siemens, which is aimed at addressing the needs that Bill was just describing. So ingesting data from your operational assets, loading them into optimized data stores, and capturing the moving data, the high-velocity time series data associated with those assets, and then running analytics on that data to reveal insights that will help drive the business forward. So the construction of MindSphere is that at the bottom there is a connectivity tier, which is focused on ingesting your data into the MindSphere platform. And then in the platform, there are storage and query and analytic and event services that you can use to reveal the insights that can matter for your business. And then an increasing population of applications that run on top of the platform, some of which come from Siemens and some of which come from third-party providers like Edge2Web. So this is a build on the same slide. What Bill is saying here is that there are a variety of edge devices that can be brought into play, whether it's a nano device or an IoT 2040 that can be positioned in your OT infrastructure and capture the in-flight data and move that data onto the platform. And then there are also applications that can run at the edge, both from Siemens and others, that can do in-flight processing of the data. So if the data needs to be conditioned on its way into the platform, those applications can provide those types of services. And as I was just mentioning a moment ago, we've got a very broad set of connectivity for the platform, a variety of different device types and strategies, both hardware and software oriented, to get data ingested onto the platform. So things like the Nano and the IoT 2040 are hardware-based solutions, but there are also software-based solutions, say for example, the MindConnect API and library and the IoT extension and so forth, that can be accessed programmatically for custom data ingestion scenarios. So both hardware and software. From our side, from the Edge2Web side, we don't get involved much on data ingestion, but I will say that we've worked with a few different industrial IoT platforms, And I would say that the MindSphere strategy here is better formed than anything we've seen out there in the universe. So, Bill, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes. If you'd like to take it from here, that would be great.
One point I heard Fred talking about on connectivity is we've got a broad option of connectivity that allows you to do from device level things where you can embed MindSphere technology into the device itself up through being able to work with pretty much any protocol that you come across in IoT. So a great set of things there. So we won't spend much time on this slide today. There's a white paper out on siemens.com/MindSphere that you can download that talks about this architecture application kind of view of things. And what you can see across the bottom is that through the kinds of devices and edge apps, we can connect to MindSphere. And then on the either side of the diagram, you can see that we can do everything from edge analytics and streaming analytics up through what we call product intelligence and on up into predictive learning on the analytics side, up into specialized analytics that are built into the applications that you can build on top of MindSphere, as well as integrating out with all kinds of other enterprise systems or accessing anything that's available in MindSphere itself through our APIs, which Fred will talk about later in this presentation. And the only other point I'll make for now on this slide is that applications can come from Siemens. They can come from our partners, and indeed what Fred will be talking about today is an application that helps you build applications. And so those can be built by the IT groups within a company, or they can be built by partners that deploy them into MindSphere for you as well. And then the other thing that we do a lot of at Siemens, as you saw from some of the previous slides, is that we have applications that can help get you jump-started in particular industries. And just a little bit in summary, the whole power of unlocking the potential of IoT with MindSphere really comes around developing these robust IoT solutions faster. This open platform as a service, still while providing access to the native cloud as well. We're built on top of providers like Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Azure. Both are MindSphere is available on both today, and we're actually in preview now with Alibaba Cloud, and that's part of the reason I'm in Beijing this week. So there's really you can get started fast, sensor device, enterprise connectivity, powerful industry solutions, and the last piece with the global partner ecosystem. It's a really strong partner ecosystem, and we're proud to have companies like Edge2Web in it. We're well over 200 partners and growing. Last I checked, that was approaching 300 now. And so we have partners for pretty much any need that you could have, from consulting and strategy to application development to technology to systems integrators, the hybrid OT, and of course partners that are working with the devices themselves. And so with that, I'd like Fred to talk about the great things that he's doing with MindSphere and great partners they are with us at Siemens.
Thank you very much, Bill. I appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind going on mute, that would be helpful, just because we're getting a little bit of static from your line. Fantastic. Okay, so we made it through with a couple of technical difficulties, and so now what I would like to do is take us through a little bit of a tour of Edge2Web Director for MindSphere, and I will talk about Director, but really my focus is going to be on how Director is integrated with the entire MindSphere stack, because I think that's really where things are special. I don't have to tell anyone on this call that industrial IoT is really starting to catch fire. Industrial organizations are moving down the track at different paces to digitize, but most of them already understand that they need to do this, and in some cases it's really starting to happen in a big way. We're seeing a lot of activity from the OEM part of the market. Those guys are now really moving fast, and their primary objective is to deliver a suite of value-added services, software and information services, along with their hardware. Leading platforms like MindSphere are specifically implemented to provide a really broad suite of platform services. They are the bedrock. MindSphere is the bedrock of industrial IoT. In providing those services, they support a very broad range of asset models, or as Bill referred to them, digital twins, time series data that's streaming off of those assets, analytics that have been derived from that data, events that have been thrown by those analytics, and just a very wide variety of foundational services you need to take the next step forward. What we would suggest is that in addition to what the IIoT platform provides, organizations like yours also need a visual app builder solution that allows primarily non-programmers to rapidly build custom apps, not necessarily the packaged applications or application components that you either get from the platform or from an application vendor, but your own custom industrial applications that leverage the data and analytics and events that are coming from the platform. Director is purpose-built and is specifically designed to address the need, and with Director for MindSphere, we do that now. So in one sentence, we enable industrial leaders to easily access and build applications based on MindSphere data, analytics, and events, and use those applications to change the business, I guess would be the concise way to say it. So drilling down just a little bit more deeply, if you're thinking of Edge2Web, there are a few things I would love for you to understand. Number one, what is the product and how is it special? Number two, how is it different? And number three, how does it integrate with MindSphere? So from a product perspective, we are targeted primarily at non-programmers who are building everything from simple dashboards to very elaborate interactive and mobile web applications. Our goal is to make the initial process and the iterations of building those applications super short. So if you're doing a POC or a prototype and you're sitting side by side with your users, we want to give you a very short time to wow with them so that you can help them understand what's possible to do and get them excited and moving forward. And as I've mentioned already and will continue to say over the course of this talk, deep and wide support for MindSphere services. There are a lot of low-code app development tools out there in the world. How is Edge2Web different? We are different because we're focused exclusively on industrial applications. We're not interested in banking or insurance or retail or travel and leisure or any of those other segments. We're focused exclusively on industrial. That focus gives us the ability to really deeply integrate with platforms like MindSphere. It gives us the ability to deliver rich industrial visualizations. And when I say industrial visualizations, I mean things beyond the line chart, bar chart, donut chart, and pie chart that you would get with a BI tool. So these are industrial visualizations that show you things through the lens of an industrial user. And in the process of building our product and working through a pretty extensive beta program, we have been building up the stack application components that let you get out of the gates even more quickly, and we'll talk about that in a minute. In terms of MindSphere integration, we're riding very closely on top of the MindSphere platform. I'll get into this more in a moment, but essentially the way to think about Edge2Web Director for MindSphere is our tools run, for all intents and purposes, completely on the platform. A few places where that's not technically the case, but our goal has been to make the user experience seem completely native to a MindSphere user, launch us from within the MindSphere Launchpad, leverage the MindSphere security system and identity services, and of course provide deep and wide integration with all of the rich MindSphere services. So when you think of Edge2Web Director, the first thing that should come to mind is that the development experience is comprised of three primary editors, one for building pages, one for building flows, which for all intents and purposes are programs, visually created programs, and one for building screens. And the difference between screens and pages is that screens represent a visualization for an individual component. So a card, for example, that shows the fluid level in a tank, as well as a time series graph on that card that shows the temperature of the fluid in the tank would be an example of a screen. So our what you see is what you get editing capabilities allow you to build those things and in a very polished and professional way do them very quickly. So those three editors are really kind of where the rubber meets the road in our design experience. And then you can read the other boxes on this slide to help you understand some of what's going on under the hood in terms of connectivity to MindSphere, in terms of very rapid application development and visualization, and in terms of integrating the applications you build with the rest of your enterprise, either through things like SQL and NoSQL data stores, REST-level integration with other application components, ERP, CRM, service management, you name it, we can integrate with those things. The last point I will make on this slide is that even though our primary focus is to allow you to build these rich applications visually, we also understand that in certain situations you're going to need to drop down into code to do something that's custom for you. And so we make it super easy for you to integrate your own JavaScript if you need to do that, if you need to do special styling or branding or things like that. On your user-facing components, you have full control of the HTML that is generated, so you can make those tweaks and we will bring them back faithfully into your applications. Changing gears quickly just to discuss this notion of Edge2Web focused on industrial apps. On the left-hand side of this slide, you see what we think of as verticals. So oil and gas, aerospace, so on and so forth, straight down the line. If you're in one of those industries or an industry that's not listed here, your first objective is to get your data into the MindSphere platform using some of the connectivity and ingestion capabilities that Bill was describing a moment ago. Once your information is flowing into MindSphere, then you use Edge2Web integrated with MindSphere to create things that are similar to what's listed on the right-hand side of this screen. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. These are just examples of applications that you can build with our tools. If we pan back and look at Edge2Web in the big picture of IIoT, on the left-hand side of this slide, we're representing the OT infrastructure as a building, but of course this could be a fleet of ships or a wind farm or any type of industrial infrastructure that is sensor-enabled and collecting data off of devices and processes. That data is going to increasingly flow into MindSphere, where the assets will be modeled as digital twins. The time series data will be stored in a high-performance time series store. You have the ability to run analytics, both Siemens provided and third-party analytics on that data. And in some cases, those analytics will throw events. In other cases, events will be thrown at the data ingestion side. But the point is that you've got the ability to store massive amounts of data on this platform in a very high-performance, highly industrial-tuned way. And then you have the ability to access that data using Edge2Web and build the types of custom applications that you need to build. Now, it's noteworthy that the MindSphere platform provides certain types of baked-in applications. So there's a fleet manager in there and an asset manager in there. And so when we talk about something like fleet management in Edge2Web, essentially what we're saying is if you want to give your users more capabilities or a more custom experience than is available on the platform, you can build that experience in Edge2Web. Does it overlap a little bit in some cases with the applications that are baked into the MindSphere platform? Sure, but the objectives are different. MindSphere's objective in providing those applications is to give you one-stop shopping for a common set of application componentry. Our objective is to allow you to build those capabilities in a highly customized way. And as I've mentioned before, also integrate the applications you create and the data that is being derived from MindSphere with other applications that are running your business or data stores that are driving your business. The last point I'll make here, and I'll probably say this again before this webinar is over, is that Edge2Web is not restricted to a query type of access with MindSphere. In many cases, the MindSphere service APIs expose a bi-directional capability. So for example, the event store in MindSphere allows an application built in Edge2Web to write user events into the event store. Wherever the MindSphere APIs provide the bi-directional capability, that capability is available in your Edge2Web applications. So I'm going to drill down a little bit deeper now to talk about how Edge2Web integrates with MindSphere at a security level and from an application execution point of view. We are deeply integrated with the MindSphere identity services. So even though Edge2Web has our own cloud and we've got our own stuff going on in this cloud, when you sign into an Edge2Web application for MindSphere, that application and the data being consumed by that application is completely under control of the MindSphere identity services. And what this means is that you can be certain that everything you do with Edge2Web and the applications you deliver to your users is secure. So yes, providing single sign-on capabilities for MindSphere users is a tremendous convenience, but the real value in doing that is security. The other point this slide wants to draw attention to is that when you are an Edge2Web user, whether you're a developer or an end user who's running applications that have been developed for you, you access everything from your browser. So you fire up Edge2Web in your browser. Let's say, for example, you're an end user. You're provided with a menu of applications that are available to you. That menu and the artifacts that drive that application come from the Edge2Web repository. They load into the browser. From that point forward, everything you do as a user happens between your browser and MindSphere. So Edge2Web is not in the middle of any of that stuff. No data passes through us from MindSphere. It all goes directly from the executing application in the browser and MindSphere. And what that means is that the applications run super fast because there aren't a lot of hops happening with the data. And it also means that the applications are running with extreme security. And importantly, your applications have a tremendous scaling capability. Since we're leveraging the compute power of each individual machine, whether that's a desktop or a laptop or a tablet, we're leveraging the compute power of that. Adding additional users into the mix and scaling up the use of your applications is quite linear. And that's a wonderful capability to have in your hip pocket as you're taking the first steps forward. You have the confidence to know that as soon as your user communities really start to adopt at scale, that you'll be able to service them. Flipping back to a slide that Bill had put up a couple of minutes ago, exposing all of the different services and service APIs that are available in MindSphere. Edge2Web, as I mentioned, can access all of that stuff. We have complete coverage of the MindSphere platform APIs, everything that MindSphere exposes, probably with one or two little exceptions, we support, and your applications can take advantage of. And as I mentioned before, in places where those APIs expose bidirectionality, we support that and deliver that capability to your apps. So on the left-hand side here, I'm listing out some of the primary talking points. I won't go through them in detail, but hopefully you get the idea that our integration with MindSphere is serious. It's been built in a very comprehensive way and intentionally so. Whether we're talking about data access or security or whatever it might be, we are deeply integrated with the platform. So when you think about the application development process, we're trying to really compress that. So from our perspective, you're building applications in Edge2Web, you're provisioning them out to some type of deployment platform, which we'll talk about in a moment. You're publishing all or pieces of your applications out to your end users, and then you're operating those applications in production. As I mentioned, we are deeply integrated with MindSphere's security model, so you don't have to worry about whether things that you're building in Edge2Web have exposure beyond what MindSphere gives you. We support all of the different strategies that MindSphere provides you to build, deploy, and operate. And we also provide our own operator service, which you can use as a stepping stone to a full embrace of the MindSphere stack. And this slide gets into the point I was just making in a little bit of detail. So in the MindSphere world, there are three primary types of plans that you can purchase depending on what you're trying to do. You can purchase a developer plan, which, as the name would suggest, is where you would build applications. An operator plan that you can provision with your applications so that you can then publish them out to your users. And then an IoT value plan, which is what most of your user organizations will have, and they will be running applications that have been published out to them. So the first takeaway on this slide is that if you're an enterprise and you're running this full stack of developer plan, operator plan, IoT value plan, Edge2Web will support you every step of the way. We can install into your developer tenant, provision your operator tenant with runtime capabilities, and we can give you the ability to publish all or pieces of your application artifacts to your user audiences who are probably running IoT value plans. And that last point is really important. It's not an all or nothing thing with Edge2Web. You don't just build one application and push that out to the world. You have the ability to build multiple applications and have those applications very specifically targeted at different user tenants, subtenants, and even users within those infrastructures. The second thing to keep in mind is that if you're not acquiring this entire stack, Edge2Web runs our own operator tenant. And so you can build applications in your dev tenant, provision them to an instance that we provide for you on our operator, and then publish those applications out to your end users in their IoT value plans in exactly the same motion as you would use if you were publishing from your own operator. So for OEMs, for example, this is actually a beautiful path because you don't have to own the operator tenant and its services yourself. You can use ours. For enterprises that ultimately will get to the full MindSphere stack, this is a wonderful stepping stone. You can provision to our operator first and then out to your end users, and then when the time comes for you to license your own operator and take control of that, we just migrate those pieces up to your operator with no interruption. So this is a pretty hard-working slide here, but hopefully you're getting the takeaway that whether you are embracing the entire MindSphere stack or whether you're looking for a more gradual path, Edge2Web will be right there with you and support those options. So I'm going to very quickly step through the pricing stuff because I get asked this all the time. We're now a shipping commercial product. Our price lists are up on our website on edge2web.com. We have two different pricing schemes, one for enterprises and one for OEMs. And the key thing to understand in our pricing model is that unlike many SaaS products which price based on named users, we price based on concurrent usage. And so if you have a 10-user Edge2Web license, you could have 2 developers building applications, burning 2 of those user sessions, and 8 end users also concurrently using applications that have been built for them. We don't distinguish between developer sessions and end user sessions. We just provide a way for you to very economically begin your journey. Again, with the traditional SaaS pricing model of named users, we believe that doesn't work in a market that is under early adoption. We want to provide you with the tools that allow you to build applications that show your users what is possible, and then we want you to put those applications in front of as many users as you possibly can, understanding that we're not going to charge you for every single one of those. Unlike other SaaS products, we won't charge you for the casual user who maybe is running an application 30 minutes a week or something like that. We really want you to expose your applications to the broadest possible audiences and encourage their adoption of those applications. And we believe just through leap of faith that if you're successful, we will be successful and we'll succeed alongside of you. That's the goal of the pricing model. You can visit our website to see what we have on the next two slides here, but in the context of concurrent usage, we offer plans that start small and allow you to scale up as people adopt and embrace the applications that you've built and use them. On the OEM side, we have a little bit of a twist here because the OEM pricing is based on concurrent runtime users. In the enterprise model, we don't distinguish between people who are building applications and people who are running them. Our belief is that you should figure out what the appropriate mix of developers and end users is in your environment. So we don't make that distinction. In the OEM model, we do. We say that in exchange for some very attractive discounting, once you start getting into the higher tiers, that you're going to be deploying your applications exclusively to end users who are only going to run the applications. You still also will need to have a director developer plan to build the apps, and we license that separately, as this footnote down here mentions. But the idea is that as you deliver those applications out to your end user communities and you get a lot more people involved and you're bringing them into the Edge2Web solution, then you will achieve different levels of discounting as you go upscale, and that makes it affordable for you to continue to push the envelope in terms of adoption. So in summary, digital industrial apps are going to encompass a wide range of industry stakeholders and use cases. We've tried to provide for that in our product and in the way we bring the product to market commercially. The MindSphere team is doing exactly the same thing, so we're really in lockstep with them. The digital initiatives that you'll undertake are going to require a comprehensive platform like MindSphere, and we would posit that you're also going to need best-in-class development tools, which we deliver to you. And so the combination of those two very powerful platforms give you the power to deliver supercharged digital applications today. Now, typically at this point in a webinar like this, I would jump into a little demo, but we're running a little bit short on time. So what I'm going to do now is actually step through quickly a set of screenshots and give you some highlights of applications that were built using Edge2Web Director for MindSphere specifically, so that you can start to get a sense of what would be possible. This is a little mobile app that was built by someone on the Siemens team in Belgium. This is a OEE-style dashboard that was built by a team in Switzerland, and you can see that there are a variety of different visualizations happening here. We've got line chart, power gauge visualizations, in utilization gauge visualizations. We have something called a time series state control here. This basically records the state of something you want to measure at any point in time, and this is a very popular one for manufacturing and other types of industrial apps. And then if we have area charts and so forth happening on this slide. This slide is sort of a mixed bag of different things. I actually created this application in concert with one of the Siemens product management folks who has a very nice vision for what applications should be doing. Here we're showing a map with a pin on the map. If the user clicks on the pin, there's a pop-up that provides some rich information. Everything, by the way, that you're seeing here is coming from MindSphere somewhere. In this case, the image is coming from the MindSphere file store, and the narrative text is coming from MindSphere Asset. This is a liquid gauge component that is very popular for process-based applications that need to show fluid levels in tanks. This is a utilization gauge, power gauge, so you get the idea. And as you look at these cards, you can see that it's very easy to mix and match different types of visualizations. So here we've got a utilization gauge sitting on top of a time series, same thing with this liquid gauge sitting on top of time series renderings. And we actually typed some text in here to show that this card could include a narrative description from a domain expert that is helping you understand contextually what's going on when you look at this information. Very easy to do with the Edge2Web WYSIWYG screen editor. This screen is showing a process in motion. It's a pump system that is actually an application. This is not a dashboard. So you can see buttons at the top of this screen that allow the user to navigate to different components of the system based on what they're learning as they look at this screen. And so you see visual indications of state. You see visual indications of where a domain expert surmises the problem is actually occurring. And this visualization here is based on the data values. So everything is data-driven as you look at this application screen. This is another example of a dashboard. This goes hand and glove with this pump system diagnostics application. This is a dashboard that shows examples of some of the up-the-stack components that we provide out of the box in Edge2Web Director. So what we're looking at here is a browser component that walks the MindSphere asset tree and allows a user to very easily browse through reams and reams of data to very quickly find an asset that they're interested in seeing, and then they hit a button that says, yep, that's the guy I'm looking for. And then these other panels on the dashboard here are pulling data from related MindSphere data stores. So this is coming from MindSphere Asset. Here we are walking MindSphere Asset. Here we're displaying the information for the aspects of this asset. Here we're helping you understand what images are available that you might want to look at related to this asset. This is all componentry that comes in the box. So if you wanted to use these application elements, as we call them, to get a jump start on building your own applications that you're going to deliver to your users, we provide the source elements for these quick start components. We provide the licensing that allows you to basically do whatever you want with them, royalty-free redistribution. Our goal is to hand you not just a tool that allows you to build applications quickly, but a growing library of things that we've created in projects that we've done that will help you go down the road much faster and in a much more meaningful way to your users. This is another dashboard that was built by an external team that's showing asset tracking. This is one of our standard dashboards for MindSphere that shows a chemical batch production process, and you can see, again, cards that show multiple tank levels. You can see images that change in data context. So, for example, the green checkbox over here on the card on the top right-hand side will change to a red circle under certain data-driven conditions. We've got renderers that allow you to view different batch steps and so forth. So this is just another example of a type of application you can build very, very quickly. And importantly, you have complete control over what these cards look like. It's so easy and fast to build them, and you can make them look very polished and very professional. So you have that capability. This is another example of an interactive web application that is based on the same chemical batch production app. And here we're showing a series of mixed cards that use that same data just to give you some ideas of different combinations of things, whether it's text-based data with special characters associated, whether it's things like a liquid gauge or a utilization gauge, over various different time series elements, single time series elements, multiple time series elements, all very easily doable in Edge2Web Director. And by the way, if you visit our website, we have the Live Apps page that actually shows some of these different application pieces executing in real time. So there's an interactive element to what's going on the website. So at this point, we're running a little bit long in the webinar. I'm going to just take a minute and look at the chat window. We do have a bunch of questions in here, so we're going to try to tackle a few of them. In the webinar, you talked about how to get started exploring IoT, but it's still not clear to us what is the best place to start. What are typical starter use cases? I think that's probably a better one for you, Bill.
Sure. Well, let me just mention a couple. I think obviously getting started by connecting devices is easy and fast, especially if you've already got a device that's something like OPC UA or one of the other common formats. But pick a business case that you want to solve a problem you'd like to answer from monitoring real-time results, typically something in the area of the asset performance management. Fred's shown a variety of easy, out-of-the-box kind of dashboards and things we created, and just try it. It's inexpensive, it's easy to get started, but what you want to do is start with an end in mind, and that's generally something that we can help you with as a partner can help you with as well.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take this next one. Can Edge2Web apps write user events to the MindSphere event store? So the short answer to that is yes, absolutely. The expanded answer is that it's actually a pretty common application requirement where an application is guiding a user through a process and encouraging that user down a path of taking a certain type of action, and when the user takes that action, you want to log that. That's an example of a user event that can be written to the MindSphere event store for downstream analytics. So that's the expanded answer. Where can I find out more about the MindSphere APIs that were mentioned?
Right. So you can find actually a link in the PDF that Edge2Web will make available to this presentation, or you can just go to mindsphere.io. So www.mindsphere.io. And all of the developer resources, all the API documentation is available online publicly. You can take a look at it. That will give you an idea of the kinds of applications you can build.
And as Bill had mentioned, this slide, this is kind of a courtesy slide that we have added to the deck. It's got a big button here that says Access MindSphere Developer Resources. All you have to do is hit that button and it will bring you right to MindSphere.io. Do you have access control capabilities that let me deploy different apps to different users? And the answer is yes. I had mentioned this a little bit on this deployment slide. Regardless of whether you provision your applications to your own operator tenant or to our operator tenant, we provide you with a very handy way to determine to whom you will publish different application artifacts. So if you have one page in your application that you want everyone to see, you can easily make that available to everyone. If you have other pages in your application that you have built specifically for one tenant or subtenant, then you can very easily tell us to display those pages to that tenant or subtenant. So there are a variety of different things you can do to flexibly publish out to your target audiences. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but part of the way we can do that so easily is because we are so tightly integrated with the MindSphere identity services that it's very easy for us to allow you to publish to a tenant or a single subtenant. So with that, I think we're going to close. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Bill Boswell again for the yeoman effort of being here in the middle of the night. And I would also like to thank all of you who attended the call. I know these webinars are not convenient for some of you. it's difficult to schedule them at times when they're convenient for everyone. So thank you very much, and hope we have an opportunity to work with you in the coming weeks and months. And with that, the webinar is concluded.